So the first question is, from where should we start? Now I will tell you one point, that is, while doing machine learning, it is very important to understand the data set on which we are going to work. Means the characteristics of the data set will decide what task we are going to do. Because in machine learning, we have several types of tasks like classification, regression, sometimes predictions and forecasting. So first I will tell you what are the authentic data resource available on which we can perform this kind of tasks. See, there is one repository which is known as UCI Machine Learning Repository. So this is the most important and freely available repository from which you can get enormous numbers of data set. And today I will fetch one of the data set from this repository so that we could perform our further machine learning dependent tasks or machine learning associated tasks. So here, just look at this. In the right side of the screen, we have some data set which is known as Irish data set. So if you click on any of the data set in the UCI machine learning, what you will get two files. That is, first one is the data folder and second one is the data set description. So first I will tell you what are these two. So whenever you are going to search on particular data, first you have to understand what is this data is all about. So here there is a flower given. So I will tell you what is this data is all about, but before that we have to understand this given chart, because this chart is available for each and every data set in UCI machine learning repository. The first thing which is given here is known as characteristics, and here it is multivariate in nature. So in today's session, first I will tell you what is the actual meaning or interpretation of this multivariate characteristics of dataset. Then you will find attribute characteristics. So, and here it is written that real. So the next thing is we have to also understand what do you by attributes in the dataset. And see, in the third point we have, it is written that it is classification. Classification is the associated task. So here my point is, whenever you are opening any data set from UCI machine learning, first you have to look at this portion. That is, by using this data set, what kind of activity you can perform. So by using this data set, you can perform classification. So what is classification? I will tell you. Now we have two more information, that is number of instances, which is 150, and number of attributes, which are 4. We have to understand these two meaning, instances and attributes. And here it is given that missing values no, means there is no missing value in the data set. And then all this information which are given, these are the source of the data set. So this, what is the meaning of this chart, we have to understand. So for better understanding, I'm just giving you one simple definition. Say, we know that our machine learning repository, that is UCI machine learning repository, is working on different data set. And here today we are working on Irish data set. So first we have to understand what is the content of this data set. So basically this data set contains 3 specific types of Irish flowers. The first category is known as Irish versicolor. The second category is known as Iris setosa, and the third category is known as Iris virginica. So here my point is, the entire data set is having 3 specific classes of data set. Classes means the species or the varieties. Now we have to understand one more point, how the data set will look like. So look at this. This is how your dataset will look like. In this dataset, see, you have some rows and you have some columns. So now the first point you have to understand, the columns are mainly known as features, and here the row, these are known as samples. So here the first point that we have to understand, any data set will have two parts, features and samples. But additionally, when we have classification task means that here we have three classes of flower. So here our task is to find out which category exists in some unknown data set. So here we are actually going to find some new values of a specific class of flower. So it's a classification task. So whenever classification task we are going to perform, then there will be one extra column associated with the data set, which is known as class level. So in this case, our class level is known as variety or species. So in this column, the last column will contain the name of the or the type of the variety of the flower. Now here the question is, but I have explained that columns are known as feature. So class level, is it a feature? No. Class level is something which defines your data. But what is this feature? So in case of column, except class level, whatever features we have, whatever columns we have, these are known as features. Now the question is why? Because these features are basically explaining the property of the flower. For an example, say the first class level is Setosa. Say one person is picking one flower as Setosa. Now this 4 column is containing the definition or characteristics of Setosa. What is this definition? See here. So here it is known as sepal length and this is known as sepal width. So this sepal length and sepal width is noted over here. And then we have petal length and petal width. It is also noted here. So basically whenever we are defining one particular flower of one specific variety, we have to define its 4 features: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. But here the point is, not all Setosa type will having the same kinds of sepal length, sepal width, petal length and petal width. So in this case, in this data set, we have so many collection of Setosa type of flower. So basically, we are collecting one by one Setosa category and we are tracking all the sepal length, sepal width, petal length and petal width. So here we are tracking information about Setosa. Then the same thing is repeated. We picked up the versicolor category one by one and we have tracked in the data set about their properties. Similarly, we will track the Virginica. So this is how, so whichever column is used to define the properties of the class level, these are known as feature. So here my point is, in IDH dataset we have 4 features and the last one is the class level. Now we have to talk about the dimension of the dataset. So whenever I was reading about the dimension of the dataset, it was written as that the Irish flower dataset consists of 50 samples from each of the 3 species and total 150 samples are there. So what is the meaning of this 2 information? So 50 samples of each category means Here they have collected Setosa category, means they have collected 50 different Setosa categories and put them in the data set. So basically 50 samples, means like this, here we have 2 Setosa, so we have another 48 Setosa flower information. So basically 50 sample information for each category, they are stored in the data set. And why 150 samples? Because we have 3 categories, each of 50 samples. So total we have 150 samples in the data set. So in one word, whenever the sample information is given, you will find that how many rows are there in the data set. So this is the very simple thing you have to understand. So whenever you are going to UCI machine learning repository, and whenever you are going to find any particular data set, the first thing you have to realize that what is this data set is all about, and what are the number of rows, that is samples, and what are the number of features we have, and what are the class levels. So here we have 3 class levels. So this is the first information that you have to gather. And then it is clearly written in the data set that there is no missing value, means all of the information are there in the data set. There is no missing value in the data set. So this data set is perfect for beginners to start their machine learning activity. But why I am telling that this data set is perfect for machine learning beginners? See, the reason is, if your data set is containing missing values, then there is a problem that we have to use some specific methods or algorithms so that we could eliminate the missing values. So we will learn these techniques slowly when we complete this training session. But from the time being, I am using this data set because this data set has no missing value. This is the first point. Second point, there is another problem. Now, please make a note over here. I was talking about that we have 50 samples each. Means we have equal number of samples for each and every category. But sometimes in maximum data sets, what happens, whichever samples we are collecting, they are not equal. Means, say for an example, say we have 20 samples for Setosa, and say we have 80 samples for other categories, other say Virginica or versicolor categories, and rest of the types are out of 150, say the versicolor category. So whenever you have huge difference between the collected samples into different categories, then it is known as unbalanced data set. So these unbalanced data sets are very difficult to deal with. So here the point is, in this training session, we will learn that how to deal with medical data set like cancer data set, liver cirrhosis data set. So the first point you have to remember, whenever we are dealing with unbalanced data set, and it is only possible that whenever we are dealing with medical data set. Medical data sets are prone to unbalanced data set because whichever samples they are collecting as a medical diagnosis, it is not possible in real life that all other attributes are present and we are collecting equal number of samples. It may happen some of the attributes are missing. So medical data is very prone to missing value, and they are of type unbalanced category. So this thing you have to remember. So these are the basic characteristics of the data set. And also you have to know that what is the objective here. So we are doing machine learning training. So we have our IRIS dataset. So what we will do? See, first thing is we have to understand our dataset. But understanding dataset does not imply that that we have to understand the feature, class level and type that I was talking about. See, these informations are given. So you read those information, these are not the part of understanding. So here we have to understand in the context of data science and data visualization. Means we have to identify what are the detailed insight of this data set. And this detailed insight, to fetch the detailed insight of the data set, we have to understand the data visualization concept, which is a part of data science. So here my point is, please make a note over here. Whenever a particular data set is given to you, in our case we are collecting our data set from UCI machine learning repository. After collecting the data set, do not go for the task directly. That is, do not go for classification, do not go for regression, or do not go for prediction. Do one thing, try to visualize the data set and try to understand the underlying statistics of the data set. So these two parts are very, very important. After completing these two parts, then only you can move on to the third part, that is the associated task. And the last part of this machine learning is, after identifying the task or associated task with the data set, then you have to move on to the fourth part, which is known as accuracy measurement. Means whichever performance or whichever task you have performed by using some specific machine learning model, then how much accuracy you have achieved. So for finding accuracy, again we will use some specific techniques for that. So this is all about your data set. So now here, using this data set, what we are going to do, using this data set, we are going to perform linear discrimination, which is also known as classification. Now why we are targeting classification, it is very, very important. Now try to visualize these three categories of the flower. See here, Setosa, the look and feel of the Setosa is completely different than other two categories. So whatever information we have collected for Setosa, they are completely different from other two. But what will happen in the real life, whenever we are dealing with versicolor and virginica, they are look like exactly similar. So differentiating them from one another, it is very, very difficult task. So for that reason, we will use some machine learning model that will help us to classify this three category clearly. So after employing a machine learning model on this data set, what we will do, we will try to find out the accuracy. Means we know that we have 50 samples of each category. So our machine learning model will be employed to find out which category belongs to which type. So then we will compare that how many categories they have identified correctly. So this is our main target. So that's why we will use some machine learning model over here. But in the consecutive classes, we will try to learn the basic mechanism, that is visualization and statistical analysis first, and then we will move on to the machine learning model. So this is all about your dataset. So I'm going to the next part, which is another important part, because this is our first session. So we have to understand lots more behavior, because we are going to use Python. We know that. Now, while using Python, we have to use some specific packages, some specific activity we have to perform, because they are very basic activity that we have to perform for any machine learning activity. So the first thing, whenever we are going to use any Python or whenever we are going to deploy any machine learning model, we have to import some of the libraries. So now first I will talk about importing library means what. See, you can think of these libraries as container. So whatever activity we want to perform, all those activities are written inside the container. So if we import the container, then what will happen? All the activities will be with us and we can use them freely. So we have to use these containers very wisely. So the first popular container in Python is known as pandas. So this is the first library that we have to import. So this pandas library is very popular because they are specifically used for data analysis. So I have explained that data analysis is very important to understand the data, to visualize the data and to measure the statistics of the data. So this pandas library will help us for that. So that it is very popular library for data analysis. And whenever we are going to import this library, you will always find me writing that import pandas as PD. So what is the meaning? So here the rule is whenever we are importing any container or any library, so here the point or any package, as PD means this PD is one of the aliases. Means instead of writing pandas, this large word repeatedly in my code, it is better to write a short form. So it is just like a nickname for this specific library. So whenever we will use other libraries, so we will use as and then we will give some short names. And import is the keyword which is used to fetch the container or the package in the current working directory. So now I will show you different kinds of activities of pandas. But however, we have another package that we have to use which is known as NumPy, which is very important. This NumPy library is used for working with arrays. See, whenever we are dealing with data sets, so we have to use this array data type. So whenever you want to use arrays in Python, then you have to use this NumPy library, so which is very important. So here let's start with this NumPy. So the first question that comes in your mind, okay, why should we use NumPy? Because pandas is used for data analysis, it is clear, but why this NumPy is used? See, in Python what happens, we have lists that serves the purpose of array, but they are very slow to process. So the array object in the NumPy is called ND array. So whenever you find me writing this ND array, then you have to keep in mind these are array objects. And from where they are coming? They are coming from this container NumPy. So it provides, this NumPy provides a lot of supporting functions that makes working with this ND array very easy. So here try to understand, whenever we are performing machine learning, using ND array is very important. Otherwise, the process will be very slow. So now to use this ND array, using this NumPy library become very important. Now here we have to understand what is this array or how this array in Python will look like. So arrays are very frequently used in data science. So whenever I'm talking about data science, so ND array is by default thing that we have to use. So here the important thing is how to define an array. So in this case, you just use one small letter, anything, and then use some square bracket, and then within double quotes, just write anything, your name of any fruit, anything you can write. So basically here my point is the square brackets are used to hold the elements of the array, and this is how you can define one array. And whichever array you are defining, if you print it, if you print this variable, because everything is stored in this array, then you will get the output. So the output will look like A, B and Y. So try to understand, while defining array, whichever elements you are going to write in the array, they must be in the double quotes. But as an output, you will be able to see it will be displayed within a single quotes. So now this is how you can define your array. But whenever we are going to access the elements of the array, it is very, very important that we have to traverse the array. We will pick the elements one by one. So now how to traverse this array? So in the programming language, we know that the traversing activity will be performed by looping. So here we can use a for loop. How? So after defining the array, you can do one thing. You can just write the keyword for and then use one variable for looping, just like C. In C, we will use I equal to 0, I less than something, I plus plus. So this is a looping variable. So here you are, after writing the for keyword, you just use one looping variable and then use another keyword in. And then write the variable name in which the array is stored. That is, for us, it is small c. And then here you just print this small c. So in this case, you will be able to see the output like this: A, B and Y. This is how your array elements will be printed. So this is how you can use looping construct on the created array. So this is a very basic activity that you can use. But here you have to remember one more action which is associated with array, that is removing array elements. Now here I will talk about data structure. In data structure, we have a concept of stack, right? So in case of stack, we have three operations: push, pop, pick. We know that. So we will use this concept over here. So here we have the direct implementation of data structure. So now how we can do it? So here, if you have one particular array in the Python and if you want to remove some of the element, then what you will do? It is very simple. Just write the variable name in which you have the elements. Then just write dot pop. Pop means deletion. And then just write 1. Now what is the meaning of this? Now afterwards you can write print C. So as an output, what you will see A, B. Now the question is why? Try to understand, pop is associated with stack. And in case of stack, which element should we remove? The topmost element. So in this case, the Y is removed, the topmost element in the stack. So this activity is very, very important to remember. This is how we can remove one by one many elements from the array. So this is the removing activity that you can use. So it is all about arrays in case of Python. But you have to understand one more point, that is, this is not the only data type that we are going to use. In Python, we also have tuples, tuple data type. Now first you have to understand what is the basic difference between defining array and defining tuple. See, in this case, I have explained that defining array means use square brackets. However, defining tuple means you just use one variable. But in this case, you have to use round brackets. This is the important thing you have to understand. And the rest of the thing is same. That is, within double quotes, you can write anything. I was talking about tuples. So here, whenever I'm talking about any specific data type, we have to understand that we have many associated rules with them. So basically, after defining a tuple, then there is a word associated with it. What is that? The tuples in Python are unchangeable. Now, what is the meaning of unchangeable? See, unchangeable means that we cannot change, means we cannot add or remove items after tuple has been created. So this is the point, because in case of array we have used pop to remove element from an array. But here, since tuples are unchangeable, I cannot use pop for removing items. So once it is done, it is created, it is fixed. So this difference you have to identify. But what is the advantage? So here, within this tuple data type, what we can do, this tuple data type will allow duplicates. Duplicate means here I can write duplicate values they will allow. So here A is written twice. So this is the one of the feature of this tuple. So now we have to understand one more point, that is known as type. So basically, from Python's perspective, tuples are defined as object. So this point you have to remember. Since I'm talking about data types, so Python will recognize these tuples as objects. And whenever you print the type of the tuple, how you can print the type of the tuple, I will show it to you. But Python will show it as class tuple, and this type will be object. So this is the thing that you have to remember. So here my point is, why I am discussing this thing, you have to understand which data type to use when. If you want to modify your data type after creating it, then go for array, then don't go for tuples. So you have to also understand these features. So here my point is, in Python, you have 4 specific data types that I will discuss. The first one is list. But what is the property of the list, you have to understand. So this list is ordered and changeable. Means you can add or remove item after creating it. And it also allows duplicate values. So you can use list for allowing duplicate values and for changing it. And it is an ordered list. Means they will use some ordered manner. They will be used to means the elements will be stored in some ordered manner. Now tuple I have already discussed what are the features associated with it. Now you have another data type, which is set, which is a collection, means which is an unordered. So set is not an ordered index, they are unordered in nature, and no duplicate values are allowed. So repetitive elements are not allowed in the set. And then we have one dictionary concept in Python. So in dictionary concepts also, no repetitive values are allowed. And this dictionary is changeable. Means once you have created the dictionary, you can add or remove the items, but no duplicate values are allowed. So whenever you need duplicate values to keep in the data type, so what you will use, you will either go for tuple or you will go for list, because both will allow duplicate members. Otherwise you have to use other data types. So these are the very, very important thing that you have to understand. But in the beginning of the class, I have explained that I am very, very concerned about pandas. And I'm very, very concerned about NumPy. Now I will tell you one beautiful feature of this pandas, because this feature is very, very useful for machine learning tasks. So in pandas, we know that 1D arrays are referenced as series. So this point you have to identify. So Whenever you are using pandas, and if you want to use some array which is one dimensional, then it is not known as array. It is known as series in pandas. And series, how you can create a series, you have to write pd dot series. And from where I am getting this pd, I have explained that whenever we are importing the pandas, then I will give one nickname, alias. So this pd means this pd. So pd dot series. So this is how you can create this one day array. So the most common argument in pandas, which is also known as data, which specifies the data in the series. So similar to the NumPy arrays, a pandas series uses D type. So here there is one comparison that we have to remember. See, whenever we are talking about arrays, in the beginning of the class I have explained that we have to use NumPy. So in case of NumPy, so we have to use some specific array which is known as ND array. But we can also use pandas for creating 1D array, which is known as series. So in that case, it is known as D type. So this D type keyword is used for manual casting. So what is this manual casting? I will tell you. But before that, I want to show you one code in which we are using pandas series. I think there is no confusion. So whenever we find the concept of pd.series, then we will remember, okay, series means I'm talking about some 1D array. And talking about some 1D array means it is coming from pandas. And it is of type D type. So now let's consider this code over here. See, here I'm going to create pandas series, and also I'm going to use the array. So that's why I have imported two libraries, pandas and NumPy. And here try to understand, I have created series by using pd.series. And you have to understand one point, the S will be in caps. But this code I am not going to explain, but here we have to see some more aspects while writing the code. Here the first aspect is this brackets. So first we have to understand what is this brackets is known as, why I am using it, and what is this format is all about, and why I am using it. Rest of the thing is very simple. pd.series means 1D array. So these are the content of the 1D array. But for some reason, I'm using these two things carefully. So we have to understand this concept of format and this brackets, because this will be used repeatedly in your machine learning. So here what we will do, we have to understand is this format method is all about. This format method formats a specific values and insert them inside the string placeholder. Now this is the word that we have to understand. So this format method is used to put some specific thing, specified value in the placeholder. So what is this placeholder is all about? So this brackets that I was showing in the code, these brackets are known as placeholders. Now this placeholders can be used in many ways, means they are specifically used for indexes, which is very important. So indexing is a very important concept for any programming language, because whenever we are going to define one array, we have a of 0, a of 1. If a is the name of the array, 0 and 1 are the indexes. Now in case of placeholder, here I'm talking about format and placeholder, right? So format is one of the method, right, which formats some specified value and insert them into a specific string placeholder. So to understand format, method, we have to understand the concept of placeholder. So basically, placeholder can be identified using some name indexes, right? So first thing we have to understand how to define one placeholder. So in Python, you will find me writing placeholder with some name, say write price, or you can find me writing placeholder with some indexes, or sometimes you find me writing placeholders with this square brackets only. Now, what is this index? If I define this concept, then it will be easier for you to understand why I am writing this thing. So indexes means, so whenever you are learning any programming language, say we are talking about one array. So in case of array, we generally write a of 0, a of 1, a of 2, a of 3 like this. So here 0, 1, 2 and 3 are the indexes. So in case of defining any array, if you want to use some indexes, you can write them in the placeholder. That's why I was talking about that placeholder is defined by these brackets, and it can be identified using named index or some numbered index or even empty placeholder. So now there may be one question that, okay, number index is fine with us, but how this name index is coming? See, in the beginning of the class I have explained that we have so many data types like directory, lists. So whenever we are using this kind of data type, then we may found number indexes, but it may happen in some of the data types we may have some name indexes. So whichever may be the scenario, if you want to use them, you have to use the placeholder. So I will explain each and everything, but first I am trying to define the basic concepts. So I think the concept of series is now okay with you. So in pandas or in Python, whenever we are talking about series, you have to remember 3 points. It's a 1D array first. Second, you have to remember it will use some format method, and third, you have to remember that it will use some placeholders. That's it. So otherwise, the rest of the program, writing the code, when we will learn this, it will be very easy for us to understand. Now there is one very important point that we have to remember. So whenever we are talking about Python, and whenever we are talking about data analysis, then we have to deal with some situation. What kind of situation? I'm showing it to you. So in this case, I will give you one idea, that is, whenever we are some data analysis, there are some specific factors which are totally associated with data analysis. So what is this? See, I can show you the simple codes because codes are available. So if you write the data frame name, what is data frame I will explain, and if you write describe function, then you will find some statistics. So I will show it to you later, but this kind of activities are there. You can find it from anywhere, but the insight of this concept is not there. So before starting the coding part, we have to understand this data analysis part. So whenever you use some describe function or describe method, what you will find one specific chart that will give you the statistical analysis. So statistical analysis means you will find out some mean value, median value and IQR, interquartile range value. So you will get some value. So it will be written as mean value is this one, median value is this one, IQR is this one, quartile value is this one. So you will get this kind of value. So if you don't understand the underlying mathematics behind this concept, then whatever value is provided to you, it will be completely unknown to you. So here my point is, today we will try to find out what is the meaning, because from the next day we will apply some specific data analysis function, then we will get some values, then you can clearly understand, okay, the value of this means this is the property of my data set. So this thing you have to realize. So the first thing with this describe function on statistical analysis, what you will get first the count. Count is very simple thing. It is a number of observations that you have in your data set. Now you will also find sum of some specific numerical values. The most important statistical implementation is mean. So now you have to understand what is the basic meaning of this mean. So mathematically the formula of mean will be written as this, where this xi is the ith observation, and this I will range between 1 to n, and n is the number of observation. But this is a mathematical explanation. In simple words, I will show you one example. Say I have this numbers 10, 20, 36, 12, 35, 40 and 36, right? And say we have some more value 30, 46, 40 like this. So here first we have to find out n. N means number of observations. So we have here 10 observations. And now how could we calculate this mean? Using this formula. How could we find the formula? Xi means we have to add all these factors. So if I add all these factors, so we will get 295, and we have to divide it by the number of observations, which is 29.5, right? So this is the concept of mean. And then after the concept of mean, there is another important concept which is known as median. So median tells you that where the middle of a data is. So it is a very simple thing that you have to understand. It is used for, first I will tell you one interesting thing about this median, that why this median statistics is so popular in data analysis. So in real life situation like bankruptcy law, where you can only claim bankruptcy if you are below the median income in your state. So now you will understand why this factor is important. In generally, median will be calculated as say n plus 1 divided by this 2 and th. So what is the meaning of this? So here n is the number of item in the set, and th means it is just the meaning of some nth number. So I'm giving you a simple example that how you could calculate the median. That is, if you have numbers like this 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 and say 9. So which one is the middle here? So by visualizing I can say that, so this is the middle. But if I use this formula, then you can get the same result. That is, here in this case we have n plus 1, means we have 7 items, 7 plus 1 divided by 2 and th. So in this case I will find 8 divided by 2, that is 4 th. So it means the fourth number in 1, 2, 3, this thing, this is the median. So by using this formula you can calculate the median also. But these are the very simple mathematics. But the most significant mathematical calculation that you have to keep in mind while doing statistical analysis is quartiles. Because this is the one of the important measurement, because this concept we will use in the case of box plot to find out the outliers in our data set. So this quartile concepts means this quartile values that divide your data into quarters. But you have to remember one thing, however, these quartiles are not means shaped like your pizza slices. So we have your pizza and we have this equal division, not like that. So here what does it means? Instead of they divide your data into 4 specific segments according to where the number falls on the number line, they will use 4 quarters that divide a data set into quartiles. So what are the 4 division that this measurement will use? The first measurement they will use is the lowest number, means lowest 25% of numbers. Then they will use the next lowest 25% of the number, which is up to the median. And then the third measurement that they will use, the second highest 25% numbers, which is above the median. And then the fourth measurement that they will use, the highest 25% numbers. So these are the simple concept, but I will show it to you with a simple example so that you could understand this concept. Say we have this kind of data set. Say I have a large data set like this: 2, 5, 6, 7, 10, 22, 13, 14, 16, 65, 45, 12. So now how we will perform this kind of measurements on this data set? So what we will do, the first step, you have to put the numbers in order. So whichever number you have to put them or arrange them in a specific order. So I'm just arranging them. So after arranging them, what you will do, the next step you have to follow. In the next step, you have to count how many numbers are there in your set and then divide them by 4 to cut the list of the numbers into quarters. Now how we will do? So here we have, I guess, 12 numbers in this set. So you could have 3 numbers in each quartile, right? So in this case we will divide, because we have maximum 4 divisions, so we will have 3, 7, 10, and what is this, 3, and then we have 3, then we have 3, and then we have 3. So these are the 4 division that we will have. So what is your step number 2? Count how many numbers you have in the ordered list and then divide by 4. This is the thing that you have to do, total number divided by 4, to cut the list into the numbers of quarters. So now this is the first thing that we have done. Now if you have uneven set of numbers, then you have to apply some tricks. So if you have this much number, say 10, 13, 17, 19, 21, then you can use one online interquartile range calculator to finding them. But to do this kind of division, what we will do, it is 21. If you use calculator, you will find that first 25% means 11.5, and the 58 means up to the median, the value will be 17, and then you have 75% as 20. So but what is the concept and how they are calculating it? It is very, very important, because along with this you have one IQR factor, which is also calculated as with some value. But here the important point is how this calculation is going on, because whenever we use Python, it will be look like a simple calculator for us. So now I think it is not clear to you because I'm just showing you the calculation. But for that purpose, I'm stating that understanding the mathematical behavior is very, very important, because writing describe function is not a rocket science. But understanding the mathematics is important. Otherwise, whatever score you will get, you will not be able to understand what it signifies. So then how could you analyze your data? So for that purpose, look into the problem very, very carefully so that I could explain each and every factor. Say we have some jumbled up numbers, and say according to the first step, I'm just ordered them. So these are the numbers which I am putting it into some order, right? So the next step is to deal with this interquartile range concept or quartile range concept. After arranging the values, do one thing, find the median. And finding the median is very easy. We know that in this case, we can identify this value as median because I have shown this formula to you right now. So now the third step will be, now we have to place parentheses around the numbers above and below the median. So this will be one parenthesis and this will be another parenthesis. So this is our third step. So arrange the number, find the median and then put parentheses. Then in the fourth step, we have to find out Q1 and Q3, quartile 1 and quartile 3. So what is this quartile 1? Quartile 1 is as a median in the lower half of the data. And what is quartile 3? It is a median for the upper half of the data. Now how could I find out this Q1 and Q3? So here we have this part, the lower half. So in this case, this position is our median. So in this case, what is Q1? Q1 is the median in the lower half. So here Q1 is equal to 5. And what is Q3? So in this case, Q3 deals with the upper half of the median. So in this case, the median value will be 18. And in this case, the Q3 will be 18 because Q3 is the median on the upper half. So simple, it is 18. Now, what is interquartile range concept in Python? So whenever you are going to subtract in the fifth step, Q1 and Q3, you will find IQR. So in our case, what is the value of IQR? That is 18 minus 5, that is 13. So here my point is, try to understand, whenever you are going to use describe function in Python, Python will do all this calculation inside it. So you don't have to worry about that. So whenever you call this describe function, you will get the statistics on count, median, quartile values, IQR values. But to understand all these values, you have to understand the median. So always you have to keep in mind that calculation of IQR is totally dependent on quartiles. What is this quartiles is all about? Whenever there is ordered data set, find out the median, and the lower half is your Q1 and the upper half is your Q3. So now difference between these two will give you the IQR. So IQR analysis is very, very important to understand your data set, because if you don't know the median or the IQR value of your data set, then how could you analyze it? Because while defining the concept of median, I have given you one beautiful situation, that is in case of bankruptcy, the only thing that is used is median. Means by visualizing the median, they can understand whether your bank is bankrupted or not. So finding these values are very, very significant. So here my point is, so from the next day onwards, when we are going to perform the coding and data analysis and visualization, please keep in mind this statistical analysis are very, very significant. Because so if I don't know the statistical analysis, I'm getting some IQR value as 13. So what does it mean? How could I realize this? And how it is related to my data set? So this is the important thing that you have to understand. So in the next day onwards, we will perform some coding and then we will do some statistical analysis. So Python will give us some analysis and we will also do the analysis by our own. And then we will check whether this analysis are matching or not. In this way, after doing the analysis, then we will go to the next step, that is the machine learning step. And then we will go to the third step, which is the accuracy measurement step. That's it. And then we will start from Irish dataset, but later on we will change our dataset. We will pick the dataset from UCI machine learning repository, and then we will do the necessary actions. Two versions of Jupyters. Either you can take Anaconda Jupyter or TensorFlow Jupyters. I prefer Anaconda Jupyter.